It was the first government-to-government defense deal between Turkey and Malaysia. The Southeast Asian country announced earlier this week that it plans to purchase 3 Turkish corvettes to bolster its navy. Malaysia's defense minister Mohamed Khaled Nordin was in Ankara to sign the deal, saying its successful execution will ensure the Turkish defense industry is prioritized as a provider for Malaysia's navy. The president of the Defense Industry Agency of Turkey, Haluk Gorgun, who oversees the country's military systems and technology, praised the deal. Gorgun said Turkey would continue to share its defense technology, know-how and expertise with friendly countries. The naval ship deal follows Malaysia's purchase earlier this year of Turkey's Anka-S drones, which will be used in surveillance and reconnaissance missions. Malaysia, which has been embroiled in maritime disputes in the South China Sea, has been looking to bolster its naval capabilities. Turkey's MILGEM project, which will construct the corvettes for Malaysia, has also delivered several ships to Pakistan's Navy, with the latest one launching last year. And for more on Turkey and Malaysia's latest defense deal, joining me now from Kuala Lumpur is Far Kim Bang. He is the CEO at Strategic Pan-Indochina Arena. And from Ankara, Bilgehan Öztürk, a researcher at SETA. A warm welcome to you both, and thanks for joining me on Straight Talk. So far, Malaysia has recently inked a memorandum of understanding to purchase 3 warships from Turkey. How much of a strategic step is this for the two countries' defense industries?
Well, the two countries' defense industries are obviously different by nature of their differences in international relations. In the case of Turkey, Turkey is one of the leading members, if not the second most powerful member in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Whereas in Malaysia, we were once given the chance of joining Southeast Asia Treaty Organization way back in 1960s, but we didn't embrace that concept. So the defense or national interests of those two countries differ markedly during Cold War in that sense, because Turkey was a frontline state surrounded by a lot of hostile neighbors. Meanwhile, Malaysia was also in a very hostile region, but was able to reconcile all its differences with all its neighbors in a very peaceful and diplomatic manner without too much use of arms.
So, Bilgehan, actually, Far just briefly mentioned, but how would these ships reinforce Kuala Lumpur's naval defense capabilities, and are there particular areas it's focused on right now?
Now, these are 3 corvettes indigenously developed by Turkish defense industry, and based on their capabilities, it is no secret that they will immensely contribute to the naval capabilities of Royal Malaysian Navy. And these are in the greater scheme of, let's say, the wider transformation program of Malaysian Navy, which is called 15-5 transformation program. It is understood that this is just a starting point of a long-term cooperation between Turkey and Malaysia, and it seems like based on the purchase of these 3 corvettes of Turkey, there will be more and following projects and cooperations between Turkish and Malaysian defense industries, and many Turkish defense companies will take part in differing levels in this effort.
So far, Turkish defense exports to Malaysia have been on the constant rise. Why does Malaysia prefer Turkish defense products? I mean, what does Turkey offer different than its competitors?
Historically, Turkey and Malaysia has had a very strong and resilient relationship. But over the last 15 years, or perhaps 20, the relationship has gone from leaps to bounds. The reason why Malaysia is in need of working closely with Turkey is because Malaysia is actually surrounded by large strips of waters. And then we have the Straits of Malacca and also South China Sea. So in that sense, we are exposed. But having said so, Turkey is a country that is also contiguous to the Marmara Sea and also the Straits of Bosphorus, which is another maritime choke point. When Malaysia make all those considerations to buy the corvette or at least sign the memorandum of understanding to have that kind of naval and defense collaboration. A lot of thoughts have been put into the whole process, not over the last 1 year, maybe an extension of what has been discussed over the last 5 or maybe 8 years. But what we are seeing right now is the combination of that strategic convergence between the national interests, if not the global interests of those two countries.
So, Bilgehan, both countries have also agreed to set up a comprehensive defense cooperation agreement, which will also cover intelligence sharing on terrorism. So, how do you think this will play out between the two countries?
Now, this is also demonstrating us that there is a wider framework of the Turkish-Malaysian bilateral relations going beyond just defense ties. This is not only a defense procurement procedure, and as a matter of fact, defense cooperation and deals in the defense sector tend to create or develop political and strategic frameworks for that kind of relationship. So, in order to have that kind of a deal, you have to have a certain level of trust, a certain level of cordial relations, and maybe a convergence of visions towards many issues. And as you mentioned, the cooperation in the intelligence, sharing, countering terrorism together, these are showing the areas of convergence between the two countries. And as long as these countries or any two countries can have this kind of convergence, they will be much more comfortably cooperating in the defense sector. So it is a complementing aspect of the relationship, but it is a necessary aspect of any kind of defense cooperation between two nations.
So far, what do you think? I mean, what are the specific shared interests of both countries when it comes to security challenges as well as the international conflicts?
Well, right now, the whole world is entering an era where great power rivalry is shaping the dynamics of the foreign policy of many countries. And Malaysia and Turkey are not averse to all those forces, systemic forces, if I may. And on top of that, the two countries also have to embrace an age or an era where you have a lot of advances in artificial intelligence, automation, analysis of big data, so on and so forth. All these forces that are imposing themselves on these two countries are actually creating the converging point for the two countries to relate to each other in a more deliberate manner, rather than felt completely separated by the distance between the two. Because on one hand, Turkey is to the west of Malaysia, the far west of Malaysia, and on the other hand, Malaysia is to the far east of Turkey. So on that basis, there's actually very little ground for the two countries to collaborate. But as and when they do, that's because they share the same concept on comprehensive security, which is one of those concepts that have emerged from the United Nations, but more specifically in middle powers such as Japan, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, and also Turkey.
So, Bilgehan, is this deepening cooperation with Malaysia a part of Turkey's Asia Anew initiative, which was aimed at boosting Turkey's cooperation with the Asia Pacific?
Definitely, I think this fits into the wider framework and vision of Asia Anew initiative of Turkey, because obviously Turkey wants to benefit from a deepened relationship with many Asian nations. It wants to benefit from the growing economic capacity, production capacity of those nations. But regardless of the wider, let's say, continents, there are certain nations and countries with which Turkey has already enjoyed very, let's say, cordial relations. Pakistan, for example, and Malaysia is another of that, and Korea is another example. So it is obvious that with this bigger, let's say, Asia A new initiatives, Turkey has already certain starting points or certain countries, certain partners with which it is kickstarting this Asia A new initiatives, and Malaysia is definitely one of those partners.
So far, Malaysia is the first country with which Turkey signed a free trade agreement in Southeast Asia. So what's the shape of trade relations in various sectors apart from the defense industry?
The trade relationship to a large extent has been boiled or galvanized by the global network of the Turkish airline. Because as early as 15 years ago, I remember Turkish airline was actually the legacy carrier of the whole country. And as and when there are pilgrims from Indonesia that are trying to travel to the Middle East for their Hajj, which is coming up, by the way, the Indonesian tourists would usually use the Turkish airline in Malaysia, which has a joint sharing with the Malaysian airline before flying to Mecca, and eventually, having completed that Hajj, they would then proceed to Turkey for the next round of their rest and recreation. So in that sense, it generates a lot of crossover activities from tourism, not just strictly from defense alone, but definitely because of the relationship of Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim and President Erdogan. The bilateral relationship of the two countries have also improved vastly.
So, Bigan, what specific sectors are Turkish businesses investing in Malaysia?
It seems like the nature of economy and the strengths of the respective countries are different. So, in this sense, considering their bilateral investments, both countries are investing in the sectors that they can offer better services, or the other its partner is relatively lagging behind. For example, we benefited as Turkey from the long history and long experience of Malaysia's experience in oil sector, when we needed to increase our capacity in hydrocarbon explorations in Eastern Mediterranean and also Black Sea region. So likewise, Turkey also investing in Malaysia, where it is faring much better.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk.